On today's episode of the Real Recovery Podcast, we're honored to welcome Tarra McCarthy. Tarra shares her powerful journey from growing up in a family affected by alcoholism and the pressures of a strict upbringing to navigating the challenges of addiction. She opens up about the impact of childhood trauma, the struggle to maintain appearances, and the turning point that led her to seek recovery. Tarra also discusses her experiences with peer-delivered services, the importance of authenticity in healing, and how she now uses her story to inspire and support others in their recovery journey. Join us as we dive deep into her experiences, the lessons she's learned, and the hope she now offers to those still struggling.
Hello, and welcome to the Real Recovery Podcast. I'm Julie, your co-host. On this journey of healing and transformation, together with my co-host Peter, we dive into the heart of recovery, sharing stories that resonate with courage and inspiration.
That's right, Julie. Each episode is a new chapter in this vast narrative of recovery, and we're honored to bring them to you. But keep in mind the perspectives you'll hear are for informational purposes only and may not reflect the views of the podcast or our partners.
Indeed, while these conversations can be a powerful part of your recovery toolkit, they are not substitute for professional medical advice. We encourage you to seek guidance from your healthcare provider for any treatment-related decisions.
And if you're facing an immediate crisis, or if you just need to talk to someone who understands, don't hesitate to call the Recovery Crisis Line at 503-223-85. The number is also on our website. Help is available 24/7.
Now let's begin our episode
Of recovery, real recovery.
Sending to Izzy.
Before recording, I want to welcome you
Thank
to the
you.
Real Recovery Podcast. So grateful you took some of your time. I've heard part of your story the same, but not the whole thing. So I'm really excited.
I'm excited to be here. I'm Peter with the Real Recovery Podcast. You just heard Julie, and we are with
Tarra McCarthy.
McCarthy. And we're so excited to have you here in my humble abode,
beautiful.
such that it
Yeah.
is. But hopefully it'll help you feel a little more comfortable with us and not intimidated. Most people, they forget that there's a mic in front of them halfway through, and they're just like, oh, wait, yeah, we're recording this, aren't we?
Yeah.
so hopefully you'll feel comfortable,
Yeah.
And
too.
there's no wrong or right. It's just natural, and I already know you're a pro at it, so it's not going to be going to be a good session. We've had some really good ones lately.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
heard.
Elton was
Oh, I
amazing.
haven't heard Elton's yet.
It's coming 2 weeks.
Okay. And I saw you did Robert as well.
That's coming
His
this
is this
Friday.
Friday.
Amazing.
They have different messages because we've tried to get a little bit of different here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But Elton left me, I don't know how to explain it, but my heart was so full,
Mm-hmm.
and God is so good.
Mhm.
And I don't preach religion, but he definitely had another purpose for her, and her soul is beautiful.
It is.
Like I haven't talked to her since
Mhm.
because I'm like still, yeah,
See, you're
every
making me cry
podcast
over
is
here
different,
too.
but yeah, it was
Her story is so incredible. When I was still at 4D, I chose to highlight her and her family and that journey to finding recovery and treatment and all of that.
Amen.
And it was probably the most powerful storytelling I've ever been able to be a part of. And yeah, she's a gem of a human being.
Yes. So like I said, each one is different. We've had a couple that are really moving. We have one we're going to do next week. And I feel like this guy topped me. He has 45 felonies and outdid me, and 19 years of recovery. And he owns a treatment center, and they don't turn anybody away.
Amazing.
And that, I was like, wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, he calls it a no wrong door policy,
Mhm.
which I think is a
And
cool
they're
way
not
to
allowed
put
to
it.
ask who's your insurance provider right off the bat,
Mhm.
which a lot of people do.
Right.
So I'm excited to hear your whole story.
Yeah.
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 Where would you like to begin? Some people start with their journey and what they went through. Some people like to talk a little bit about what they do today. It's up to you how you want to
Yeah.
approach it,
Yeah.
whatever's most comfortable.
Yeah. I'll share the experience and then the strength and hope. And
Love it.
I was born and raised here in Portland, Milwaukee, Oregon. And I was raised in a family that has alcoholism on both sides of the family, also raised Catholic. So I went to Catholic school, kindergarten through 8th grade.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. You too?
Yes.
Yes. I learned in my family unit from a very young age through modeled behavior, I would say, that we don't talk about things in an authentic way. We brush things under the rug. We put our best face forward. And as long as everything looks okay on the outside, then everything's okay.
Right.
And so I learned from a very young age that we don't talk about the things that are hurtful. We don't talk about the things that are bad.
No feelings.
No, yeah. Feelings were weakness. And so that's how I started out. And I played soccer. And that really became an identity for me and an outlet, a way to get praise from my family and be recognized for my achievements. And so I started very young. At 5, I was just doing cartwheels in the field and picking daisies. But about 10 is when I got really serious into soccer. I played year round. I played for the Olympic Development Program. So it's
Wow.
the state team. We play other state teams. I played classic soccer. Got to travel all over playing soccer. And so that really became my outlet.
Year round is dedication.
Yes. Yeah, it was. And Catholic school was hard from a very young age as well. I realized that the way, and I don't like to bash religions or anything like that, but for me, the way that it was taught to me in my Catholic school was, it was very hateful, right? It was like, this is the way that it is, and our way is the right way, and any other way is wrong. And I remember I've been feisty. I've been a Spitfire my entire life. I would get kicked out of class daily in 6th grade, arguing with the nun, finding ways to bring up, God doesn't hate gay people. God doesn't hate people. That's not God. And just finding ways to bring things up, to start these like hot topic discussions that I wanted to have, and would be asked kindly to leave class.
I got in trouble too.
Yeah, it was hard trying to be formulated to fit into this box. And these are the ideas, fit into this little box. And if you don't fit into that box, then you're wrong. And then that, for a child, then comes as, well, something's wrong with me. I had some early childhood experiences of trauma that really also added to that inner narrative that something's wrong with me, I'm not okay. And that was really difficult to navigate as a small child, right? Because we don't know how to process those things.
Exactly.
I think those things are, or have been, hard for me to navigate as an adult, never discussing them before until I was 56.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially coming from a family where you learn we don't talk about things, we shove it under the rug, you put your best face forward, and you don't talk about that stuff. You don't talk about anything negative, really, that's going on in an authentic way, especially something like that. So that was a big thing for me. I was also very sheltered. My parents were strict, and I was expected to follow the rules. And if I was out of line, I was in trouble. And that was just, it's old school methods, right? My father was raised by a militant father. And so that really comes down in the
Yeah.
way that I was parented. And yeah, all of these little pieces that are starting to shape who I am. When I get into 8th grade, I decide I'm done with Catholic school. I'm not going to LaSalle like I'm supposed to, like all of my other cousins are going to Central Catholic and LaSalle, and I'm like, absolutely not, and I'm not doing that. And so I
The
got
rebel came out.
I was, yes. And so I went to Milwaukee High School, and it was there that everything really shifted for me, right? Because I came from this very sheltered, small, my Catholic school, I was with the same kids from kindergarten through 8th grade. There was maybe 25, 30 of us. We all knew each other since 5. And so then going into a public school where there was
It's overwhelming.
it was, but it was also exciting because it was like, I get to
Pick out your clothes.
I get to wear whatever I'd like. I get to create the identity that I want. And who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? And for me in high school, and there's all these boxes in high school as well. Are you a jock? Are you a nerd? Or whatever, those different boxes. And I really liked being in all of them. I was a jock, but I wanted to hang out with the skaters, and I wanted to be in all of the groups. And the way that I did that was really not actually being authentically me. It was finding the way to fit in with you. So I had a very good understanding of how to change myself so that your perception of me would be that you liked me and that you accepted me. And at the time, I didn't realize what I was doing. I didn't know I had all of these masks that I was wearing, that I wasn't letting people see who I truly was. It was like a defense mechanism, right? I want to be liked. I want to be accepted. I want to be validated. So I'm going to be whatever you want me to be. And I know how to do that just easily. It came easily to me.
I sometimes think that I would have been a great actor because I was very good at adapting to
Yes.
any type of social vibe. And even in my career, when I worked with Fred Meyer and managed a conference center, and the different groups all had these different personalities. There's the good old boys from food, and there was in the nature group had a different vibe, and apparel was a little bit more flamboyant, for lack of a better word.
Mhm.
And I was able just to totally fit with anyone, but never being myself.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And did you realize at the time that's what you were doing, or did it just really
Looking back, it was more
Looking
natural,
back.
but I think looking back, it was fear that drove me
Right.
to become those persons or
Right.
to fit in.
exactly?
I
As a-
think freshman year, same thing, but I moved from Boston to here
Mm.
freshman year. And I was supposed to go to Central Catholic. And my
Mhm.
mom, we lived in Beaverton. She didn't want to drive over the bridge. And Jesuit didn't take girls yet.
Mm.
Going to a public high school overwhelmed my brain.
Mhm.
Like, I couldn't believe people got to wear jeans and like the clothes alone. And then I had a wicked accent. And I was
Wicked
successful
smart.
through, I was similar to you. I was successful through sports. It overcame a lot of things for me, but I got along with the stoners too.
Mhm.
And because I'd been to Catholic school, I was smart because Catholic school is way harder than public school. And so that was a breeze. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like we have a lot of
And,
similar.
and just I just wanted to fit in too
Mhm.
and be accepted. And you go from a small class to like it was overwhelming. I had never taken a public bus before or gotten lunch in a cafeteria.
Mhm.
And I was like, they have baked potatoes? Like, for real.
Yeah. I started freshman year, and for that first year, it was like that, that you're talking about, trying to figure out who I am, how do I fit in, how do I adapt to really get all my needs met within this space. And I didn't start using any sort of like substances until I was probably 15. I think it was probably the end of my freshman year, maybe beginning of my sophomore, probably end of my freshman year. I remember like holding out for a while. Like I remember being like, oh, I'm not going to smoke weed. I'm going to do my schoolwork and I'm going to do well at soccer. I went out for varsity as a freshman. I remember my dad, he was so proud, such a proud dad, and went and met with the soccer coach before tryouts. And my daughter's going to be on your varsity squad. And the coach thought, yeah, but I did. I made the varsity team and got to do that. And
Instant stardom at school.
yeah,
Freshman on varsity.
think so. Yeah, that was a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yeah, that was a big deal. And so I saw that like people noticed me, and I saw that like boys noticed me, and I was wildly insecure. But again, the defense mechanism was the exact opposite of that. I was wildly insecure, but I was going to act like the most confident, competent person. And so this persona was very much in opposition to how I actually felt
Right.
inside.
Yeah.
And people know me or knew me in high school probably thought I was very confident in myself and who I was and what I brought to the table. But that was not my inside experience. And that's still something I struggle with. I think I'm so good at having these walls up and acting in the right way or in a certain way. It's the vulnerability, and that goes back to childhood, right? It's like
Right.
being
Mhm.
vulnerable, being authentic, like that, and letting you see me that as I really am. That's the difficult thing. And it still
Yeah.
continues to be a difficult thing.
I actually really agree. I always want you to see the successful, the put together, the good mom.
And it's funny for me when we started this, the second and third shows were our stories and totally, completely out there, honest. And in some ways, I still find myself wanting to put up that front.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wait, I can't do that anymore because I'm out there. Anybody who goes and listens, they can hear all who I really am. So it's funny how the brain still wants that protection mode.
Yeah. And those just pathways in our brains after doing something a certain way for your whole life. I'll be 7 years sober in March.
Awesome. I'm 7 as of
Yeah,
July.
Nice. Congratulations. Yeah, but I think that those take a while
Yeah.
to carve out new pathways. So yeah, that's the kind of mode I was in, was just act uber confident and competent, even though I was like this scared little girl inside. And I had a lot of anxiety that I didn't really realize was anxiety at the time. And once I did break down, was like, okay, I'm going to try smoking weed. I'm going to try drinking. I just got that immediate relief that many of us get, where all of a sudden it felt okay to be in my own skin. It felt okay to be me. I didn't care as much what other people were thinking about me. It just quieted
Yes.
all of that constant this and that, and what about this person, and how am I holding my hand? Just the massive
No, I hear
overthinking
you.
that I can do. All of that just faded away. And I also saw from first time drinking that my inhibitions went way down. And
Yeah.
I drank alcoholically right from the very beginning. I didn't ease into things. I wanted to drink for the effect. I wanted to
Yeah.
smoke for the effect. I am an addict through and through.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the
Yeah.
same way.
Yeah. But there were things that I wasn't going to try. So in high school, in all of my different friends group, there was one particular friends group that was doing a lot of trying substances and doing a lot of cocaine and dropping acid and even doing meth and heroin and stuff like that in high school. But I had to keep things together. I had to keep that facade up, right? So I would smoke weed and I would drink, I would drop acid and I would snort coke and I would do all of those things. But I had to keep myself in check enough so that I was at least getting good enough grades to stay eligible for soccer, because that was always the motivator. Soccer was my whole life and identity. So I had to keep my grades good enough to play soccer, had to stay out of enough trouble to not get kicked off the soccer team. So I wasn't going to try meth, heroin, or crack. Those were my those were my three, that I was never going to do those. Everything else was on the table. And in the beginning, I had a lot of fun. I saw a lot of consequences right away too, MIPs and all of that. I got really good at lying and manipulating and convincing my parents that I was going to a sleepover and we were really headed to the beach to get drunk at a motel and I was going to get arrested and get an MIP because I'm walking down Highway 101 with my swimsuit bottoms in the middle of winter and the cops, what the hell is going on here?
Wow.
But I made it through. And there was also another trauma that happened in high school. I think I had just turned 16 and I was raped. And that really, I flew off the handles after that because it changed things for me. I had already found these things that made me feel like it was okay to be me. So I knew, what I had, and that was what I had in my tool belt.
Right.
And then after that happened, I just had so much just shame. I just felt so horrible about myself. And it brought up a lot of childhood stuff as well. And it just really broke me. And so not feeling those feelings was the motivator. And that's really always been the motivator, because my feelings, I feel deeply. If you start crying, I will start crying.
I'm the same
I
way.
am such an emotional being. And also taught through no wrongdoing of my parents or my family, just because this is the way that it wasn't okay to feel, that we didn't talk about those things, and feeling your emotions wasn't a reinforced thing in my childhood. So I'm a deep feeler and feel my emotions so heavily and so big, and also telling myself that's not allowed. You can't do that. And so I just needed a way to shut that off and shut that down. And I
It can
found
be
that through drugs and
overwhelming.
alcohol.
It really can.
Yeah. And so I graduated high school. I was pretty good at soccer. I could have gone to a 4-year university right away if I would have had the grades, but the grades never mattered except for to stay eligible. I wasn't thinking about the long-term consequences about that. I got in a lot of fights. I had a lot of anger inside of me. I got in a lot of fights in school. I was constantly getting in trouble. I graduated just a little bit early, but not because I was like super smart or doing really well in school. I think I'm a smart individual, but it's not because I was excelling. It was because they were like, we're ready for you to get the hell out of here. You got to go.
We're done. Go
Yeah.
on. Move on.
You move on, McCarthy. So then I needed to go to a community college for a couple years. So I went to community college, and just more of the same stuff there, where staying eligible for soccer, getting mediocre grades just to get by, partying a lot. Partying was always the main motivator. And then I went to school in St. Louis, right outside of St. Louis, Lindenwood University. I got a scholarship there. I moved out there on a full ride.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. It was going to be and it was all of these steps, right? When high school, it was like this new, who am I going to be? New me. Who do I want to be this time? And then same with community college. It was like, okay, I'm going to reinvent myself. These people don't know me. Who do I want to be? Same again when I went to Lindenwood. It was felt like a fresh start, but I never really got those fresh starts because I was always using alcohol and drugs so heavily that I wasn't able to manage my life. It was just like I was tumbling from one day to the next, just trying to stay eligible, just trying to get the grades. And then things really shifted for me when I was 19. I was a junior and I injured my back and I was prescribed morphine.
Oh.
And that was like the beginning of the end of the slow, just spiral downward once, because opiates were my thing. And that was above everything else, the thing that made me feel like I'm okay. Everything's okay in life.
Yeah.
And I moved back to Portland. I was on those pills. That's crazy. Morphine for a 19-year-old, otherwise healthy collegiate soccer player. And at that time, was when there was a lot of abuse stuff going on with the doctors handing out pills like they were candy. And there was no real conversation about it except for, do you want a long acting? Well, first they told me I needed to stop playing soccer. And I was like, absolutely not. They wanted to do surgery on my back. Absolutely not. I just need whatever you can give me so I can keep playing soccer.
Right.
And they're like, do you want a long acting or a short acting pain reliever? And I said long. And they prescribed the morphine. And
That's incredible.
yeah. And my dad's dad, my papa, was a physician. And he urged heavily against not doing the morphine. He knew our family history. We have it in our genes, and that it wasn't going to be a safe thing for me to be on. But I think that I wasn't in a place where I was going to listen to that. And
Right.
also my parents were so proud of me and my soccer achievements
And the scholarship.
and the scholarship and all of that. And so we just didn't have a way. We didn't know what it was going to bring. Otherwise, all of us would have said, yeah, that's a horrible idea. Let's not do that. We just really weren't educated enough, I don't think, on
Right.
what the long-term effects could be.
Right. And if the
So-
doctor says it's okay,
Exactly. It's so much different, right? When it's coming from a doctor.
Yeah.
You think it's safe, you think it's okay. And it surely wasn't for me. And that was just the beginning of the slow spiral downward. And so I got arrested all the time. My poor mom, I would call her from Missouri and Mom, I'm in jail. I need you to bail me out. And I'm in the middle of the country and just
yeah.
almost got kicked out of college multiple times, almost got kicked out off the soccer team
So they
multiple
were
times.
aware of your troubles, but they were overshadowed by your success.
Yeah. And it was like, come on, Tara, figure it out. You can do this. And I had these great achievements, and I also had these high highs and these low
Yes.
lows. And I was just reckless. I didn't have any way to slow down and be like, I didn't realize what was going to happen. This is harmful for me. My behavior is going to get me in trouble. I just didn't have that. I thought it was a funny joke at the time.
We know when we're in it.
No,
Exactly.
we don't.
Yeah.
And
I
I
never
don't
did.
think we know the damage it'll cause
No.
when you're in it. And I think being an IV drug user, methamphetamine, it was my courage sometimes. And I felt like fucking Wonder Woman,
Exactly.
not knowing that, hey, this is going to lead you to prison.
Right.
Had somebody
Well-
told me that, I might have thought twice.
Maybe,
you
but
know?
maybe not too.
Right.
Like,
For me, I was such a rebel that people telling me no was, oh, yes, I
Exactly.
better do it double. I was very against authority, and
exactly.
you're not going to tell me what to do.
Too. Me too. Yeah. So I think that you're right. If someone had said, no, you're not going to do this, I'm sure I would have just done it 10 times harder. 'cause
And all
that
of the
was just-
troubles, like I'd been arrested and so forth before. And I think those were, again, it was like, oh, they have no right. And so it maybe just energized me to go for it more.
I'll show you,
Yeah.
not realizing I'm burning my own life to the ground
Yes.
here. I'm affecting my family and friends in some way, but I'm
Yeah.
being most affected, and I'm drinking at or using at these other people or behaving at these other people. And I'm really just burning my own life to the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I moved back to Portland. It was a soccer injury that caused the back injury. I moved back to Portland to finish my degree at Portland State and then just transfer the credits back to Lindenwood. So my degree is technically from Lindenwood University. It's a bachelor's of science in business. Just barely skated by to get that in there. And then it was like, okay, what am I going to do? What should I do with my life? And I decided to start working in banking. I started as like a part-time teller at US Bank in Lake Oswego, and the other tellers were on Pinterest, or just when it was slow and there were those lulls, they were messing around, looking at makeup, looking at Ulta, looking at Pinterest, whatever they were doing. I was like, oh, I'm going to pull these lists and start calling these people that have had multiple times where they've overdrawn their account. And I'm going to sell them a credit card for overdraft protection. And my bosses were like, what? This is crazy. You should be in a sales position. And so I got promoted to a sales position. I became a universal banker, and I went to banker school through US Bank. And I was also struggling the entire time. So much of my story in my adult life is leading a complete double life where I am really my whole life is like this. I'm achieving at a high level, and I'm also struggling really heavily as well. And that was the case the
But
entire
one
time.
hides the other.
Exactly. Exactly. And we were touching on the stigma piece earlier. I think that has something to do with it too. Like, I come from a good family. We were upper middle class. Like, I went to Catholic school. Like, I'm a college graduate. I can't be a drug addict because in my mind, that's not what it was.
Yeah.
And that was me having a lack of understanding of what addiction is and how it touches every single person from every walk of life. And that's why it's so important for me now to talk about these things with people, because I still get it all the time. Oh, you're spoken. Oh, you were a banker. You have a college degree. How could that have happened to you? And it's none of that has anything to do with addiction. There's a disease in my brain,
Right.
and it touches everyone from all walks of life. I think that people who are successful and have the ability to achieve at a high level just hide it for longer. And that was definitely the case for me.
Right.
So at the end of it, I was a loan officer and I had moved to a different bank. I was in the Hollywood district at Bank of America. And at the end of things, when things start crashing together, right, I have these two worlds. And I love that the people that I work with have no idea until the end that I am shooting up in the parking lot. I am selling drugs to help my own habit. I'm staying up all night downtown on 6th Avenue smoking crack and then going to the bank the next day on no sleep and sitting in front of customers and opening accounts and selling credit cards. And I loved, and then there was the people that I knew from the streets, and they just couldn't believe that I worked at a bank. It was like, what? Who is this girl? You're out here selling drugs, out here on the block, and you're going to go to Bank of America at 9 a.m. and start working.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I thrived in it because, again, nobody could really see me. I had all these masks up. Nobody could see me. But those two worlds came crashing together. It became much more difficult for me to keep up the appearances. My performance at work I was slacking and I was really struggling and I was late for work all the time. It was incredible the amount of tardies I had. Multiple times a day, getting there in the morning, coming back from lunch, missing appointments. It was just I really started to struggle. And there was a time I was actually driving past that bank today and I was reminiscing on I had stayed up all night smoking crack. And when I started using uppers, meth and crack, it's when stuff went real sideways for me. My body did not agree with those substances. And it was always trying to figure out how much of a downer and how much of an upper to get to the right level.
Right.
And that's when things became really difficult for me to keep track of everything and keep it together. And I remember one night I had stayed up all night and I was at work and I looked horrible. I was still so out of it, super high, should not have been at work. And I could tell that people were looking at me and seeing it. It was like those moments when you can see the disgust, fear, judgment, like what the hell is wrong with you in the expressions of people looking at you. It was one of those moments where I'm like, oh God, you are starting to see me. I'm not doing such a good job at keeping you out and this facade. And I pulled my manager into the teller room, like the ATM room, and was just like, I'm just really struggling. And I was not able to say anything besides alcohol at that point, but I told her I was really struggling with alcohol and that I needed some support and I needed to get myself right because I thought she's going to fire me if I don't say something. And she sent me home for the day, but it was just, I continued more of the same. And
I had the same conversation with my boss at the time. This is back in Chicago when I was working there, but same thing. I knew I had gotten to that limit, and I was so afraid that I was going to get fired, and so I pulled him aside, just like you said, and had that conversation.
Only when it was like I was going to lose it. Am I willing to give you a little bit? It's not the truth, but it's a little bit of something.
I wasn't sincere that I needed help, but it was. This will help me get through a few more weeks or whatever it was.
Let me try to manipulate you into getting my needs met. And I had tried a couple of different times to go to treatment because I would have these fleeting moments of clarity where I was just like, man, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to live like this. And I would go to treatment, and it was 2 times. I went to Brookside once when I still had Kaiser insurance, and I left after 2 days. And then there was another time I went to DePaul downtown when it was still DePaul.
Oh,
And that was a whole new world for me because I had gone to Brookside, which is like private
And DePaul
treatment.
downtown was
Woo!
the ugliest building
It was
upstairs.
such a stark difference. I was like, what in the actual hell did I do
I
here?
took some meetings there, and
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, and it's crazy. My daughter's father went there as well.
Yeah, it was a stark difference. You go from like having your own bathroom and choosing your meals off of a menu. I had a boyfriend at the time who was very controlling and didn't like that there was other men on the floor with me. So I decided needed to leave treatment, continue getting high for however long, and then when I have another one of those fleeting moments of clarity, because I thought I was losing my mind. The uppers just did not mix well with me, and I could see those looks in people's faces, and knowing I'm not right, I'm not doing a good job here, and it was very scary. I'm like, am I losing my mind? Am I going crazy? I didn't
Are
know
you
what to call it
paranoid,
at the
meth?
time, but am I in psychosis? What is going on here? And so I had driven to my parents' house, woken them up in the middle of the night. And this is the first time I admit to my parents. And everything was just drama at this point in my life. I wake them up in the middle of the night and say, I am a heroin addict. I am strung out on heroin. I need to go to treatment. And I had not said that to them at all. They knew, especially my dad, he's one of us. And so we can recognize the behavior and the traits in other
yes,
people much
exactly.
easier. It was easier for me to manipulate my mom and lie to her and keep her from seeing, but my dad knew what was up the whole time. But of course, I wasn't going to admit that until that moment, fleeting moment of clarity. I was like, I might be going crazy. I need help. And I did. I went to DePaul, and that was just so different than Brookside. And it was like, I was only willing to see the differences of that time. These people have gone to different depths of their addiction that I haven't yet gone to. And so I was only able to see the differences. I haven't done that. I'm not like that person.
Yeah.
It was just me reassuring myself, I'm not an addict, even though I obviously very much am. But the lies we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
Got kicked out of DePaul and wouldn't go back into treatment again until it was with an ankle monitor around my ankle
Yeah.
on pretrial release after doing 6 months in Multnomah County. And so after I lost the job at the bank, it was not that long. I started using IV. I had been using IV for a little bit. That was another huge moment, turning point. All of these things that I had said I would never do, I started doing those things. I shared back in high school that I said I would never do crack, heroin, and meth. I had done all of those things. Those were all the 3 top substances that I used.
Yeah.
I told myself when I was using heroin that I would never inject. I would never use IV. I started doing that. And all of those things that I said I would never do, and seeing myself doing those things just continued to keep me in this shame, guilt spiral where I didn't see any way out. I didn't see how I could ever escape, and I
IV drug
hated
usage
myself.
is not pretty.
No,
And once you do it that way, there's no other way.
there's no going back.
And I too, when I saw tweakers, was like, I'll never do that.
Mhm.
And I got high for 5 years, and for 4.5, I couldn't do the needle myself.
Mhm.
I paid a nurse to do it,
Mhm.
and my mom never knew.
Mhm.
Yeah, when I got out of prison, they told her I was going to go to the transition out of prison program at the Y. And she said, why can't she come here? And they're like, she has a drug problem. And she's Julie. And I stayed away when I was messed up, and I was a little late bloomer too. I didn't do any drugs until college. I was at Portland State as well. But my senior year, I withdrew from 15 classes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Yeah. So it sounds like you stayed away from family while you were struggling. And for me, I would stay away for a period of time when I was really out there doing whatever I was doing. And then I would always come back home. And I did that over and over again. And my poor parents, my mom shares that I would show up like something the cat drug in. I'm withdrawing from heroin. I am just going to kick at my parents' house. And I did that over and over again. And I just couldn't hang on to it. I couldn't hang on to
It's
it.
hard.
It was. And and at the time I wasn't willing yet, right? I say I couldn't hang on to it, but I wasn't willing to take suggestions. I wasn't willing to work any sort of 12-step program. I wasn't willing to really continuously say like, I am an addict. I'd have these little fleeting moments of clarity, And then I would convince myself that I could just drink and not
Oh,
use heroin, or I could just,
yeah, I tried everything
yes,
excuse in the book, and I think I had fear that drove me to use, but then there was the fear of not using.
right.
It's hard to explain, but I would think if I say that I'm at an alcohol, or I admit to this, or if I try to, then I can't ever do it, and I can't. I was fearful of that, being in that situation.
hmm
It was like it had taken so much hold that there's almost like two people
Yeah.
inside of me, and this other person was like, because that's I tell how I'd come home and there's a bottle on the counter. I'm like, I don't buying that. I don't remember.
Mhm.
And there it is. It's like another person took over my body.
21-day thing. If I could, I had a hard time making it past the third week.
hmm
And then if I could make it 60 days, 6 months wasn't a problem. But it was that first 21 days for some strange reason. I now, and it's taken me 25 years to get there, am so grateful I went to prison
Mhm.
because it gave me the time out. No choice.
Mhm.
There was no 3 weeks.
Mhm.
And in hindsight now, and up until going to IOP, 25 years sober, there was a lot of shame. When I was telling you about the job offer thing recently, it brought it right back.
Yeah.
And it was like, how dare you judge me on the past? Do you know how hard I've worked?
Right.
But I think the timeout saved my life.
Yeah.
hmm
I agree with my own story, because after I lost that job at the bank, I just flew off the handles. I remember having a conversation with somebody who cares about me deeply, who said, okay, Tara, this is like a fork in the road. You can either go this way. Are you a college graduate and are you going to be a banker? And is this the life you're going to live? Or are you a drug dealer? Like, you have to choose. You can't
Right.
continue to do both of these things. They don't mesh. You have
They
to
don't.
choose. At the time, it was like, of course, I'm going to choose this way and I'm going to go full balls to the wall on that. And it didn't last that long. It didn't last more than a year. It was under a year after I lost the job at Bank of America before I got arrested. And thank God it did, because so many more of those things happened during that year that I said I would never do. I became so isolated and lonely. Now that I didn't have any job to get up for, there was no resemblance of any sort of a life. There was no schedule.
routine.
There was no routine. There was no facade anymore. It wasn't like I have this dual personality. I have to go show up for work and be a banker and do whatever I want. It was just that. And I was a shell of a person. I was just like, there was no sustenance inside of me. I was just a shell of a person that I used to be. And it was horrible. I became extremely suicidal. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to live anymore because I couldn't see any other way out. I'm just like, I had internalized all this stuff like I think many of us do. I'm
Yeah.
doing these things that make me feel shame and guilt that I know I'm not meant to be doing, but I also can't stop doing them. So something must be wrong with me. I must be a piece of shit. I must deserve to live my life in this way. So I'm just going to continue. But you get to a point where you're just like, how can I go on anymore? I don't want to live anymore. The drugs stop working. I just feel, I feel nothing. I feel nothing and I don't want to exist anymore. And I see no other way out but than to just take my own life. And my family would be better off without me and the world would be better off without me. And I had nothing left to live for. And there was a moment, and I lived on 34th and Belmont in this little studio apartment up above a coffee shop. And thank God I had this little dog. Like, I had this little dog, and that's who I had. His name was Louie. And I was just living so recklessly, but at least like I had Louie. And he probably saved my life too, just having something.
To be responsible for.
Exactly.
Yeah, for me, it was Coco. She
Yes.
was there
Oh,
during my
really?
darkest
Yes.
days. Yeah.
Yeah. So even though I feel awful because I couldn't take care of myself. I wasn't taking care of Louie, but I had some semblance of this responsibility. And there was a moment where I was just done. And I had tried multiple times to overdose through substances. I would take shots that were I should have done it and it didn't. And I'm like, how am I still living? I don't know. I'm driving recklessly and crazy. And how have I not died yet? It was just insane to me that like, why am I still here? I'm living in a way and I'm choosing things that like should kill me over and I'm not. I'm just still here. And so I was so frustrated and I was so done. And I just wanted it to be over. And I took my gun and put it in the barrel. I put the barrel in my mouth and I just tried to pump myself up to pull the trigger. And I couldn't do it. And I was so frustrated that I couldn't do it. And I'm thinking this negative self-talk, you pussy, you can't even do this. You can't even do that right. So I fell to my knees and I just needed some sort of release and I just want to cry. And it had been so long since I cried because I was so numb. I couldn't feel anything. And I tried to cry and nothing, no tears. And I just screamed out of frustration. And I put my hands up and I said, okay, God, if you can hear me, you need to save me because I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And I was arrested like a week and a half later. And I was arrested I had robbed this other drug dealer who had tried to sexually assault me. And as a get back, we went and stole his drugs and his money. And at the time, I didn't think I was ever going to
No,
get
that sounds
in
like a
trouble.
good plan.
It was
Yeah,
a good
absolutely.
plan, right? It was like fail-proof. And we went on this high-speed chase, and he chased me around, and we lost him. We split the drugs and the money, and everything was good. What I didn't know was that he went to the North Portland Police Department right after that high-speed
Oh
chase
my gosh.
and told them, I'm a drug dealer. She's a drug dealer. She stole my drugs and my money, and I want you to arrest her. And he tells me all this, and I'm thinking, this dude is full of shit. There's no way that you went to the cops and said any of this. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. But I was also just done, right? So I'm waiting for something. I don't think this is going to be it. I'm like, yeah, whatever, guy. And then I get a call, and I had also started using fentanyl at this time. I say this, like if fentanyl had been around then, like it is now, I would have been dead 100 times over. It is so extremely dangerous now. It's just incredible. I had come up on some fentanyl and I was injecting just straight fentanyl. And so I had woke up from hovering in between. They told me, you're not breathing. They kept waking me up. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. Everything's fine. My phone rings. I come to, and it's a detective. And I just don't have the wherewithal, the smarts to put two and two together during the time because he said he identifies himself as a detective. This is Detective Hollins. Your car is parked too far from the curb and it's gonna get towed if you don't come down and move it. And I'm an idiot and I'm too high to put two and two together. And I'm like, thank you so much. I'll be right down. And I walk down and they arrest me. And at the time,
Wow.
I'm thinking, oh no, God, not like this. I asked you to save me, but not this is
way.
not what I meant. And it was exactly what I needed. It really was. I needed the time out. I needed the time away from the substances so that I could get my brain back, so I could have the freedom of choice because it didn't feel like a choice. It didn't feel like a choice at all. I was in survival mode. I had to use these substances to survive. There was no other way. The only other way I could think of was to end my life. And so I needed that. I needed that time out. And thank God for that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I've talked about it recently. I voted for people to go to treatment and whatnot. Sometimes you just need a timeout because there's not always treatment available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I surely needed it. Now, there's a case to be made if I had a peer, if I had somebody who I could see myself in walking with me on that journey, maybe I never would have got to that place that I was at, you know? Maybe if I had somebody that I could identify with walking me through that treatment process.
Or
maybe
an example.
Exactly. Maybe it would
I
have
didn't
looked
trust
different.
anyone at that time.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, even when I got out,
Yeah.
it took going to my AA meeting for a while and I was at a gay men's meeting, which was probably the most perfect thing for an escort service owner. They didn't want to sleep with me.
Right.
And it took me a minute to trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's
And I'm not
hard.
an easy truster to
Yeah.
this day. I trust, but it takes me a minute.
Yeah.
But
I
when
think
you're
so.
in that moment of what you described as your moment where you screamed and I need help, to know, like looking back at my moment, because I had a very similar moment where I just was like, I can't. No matter how much I drank, it didn't do anything. I was just at that point, isolated, alone. If I had a person that was there that had been through it and said, hey, there is a way, and this is how I did it.
Right.
Who knows? You can always look back,
Right.
2020 vision, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it feels like it would have been easier.
Yes, I think so, which is why I love peer delivered services so much because it allows you to sit across from somebody else, not a counselor, not someone with a bunch of letters behind their name and no
Or
lived
gonna judge.
experience who I can easily say, you don't understand me, you don't see me, you don't get me because you're not like me. So therefore, I'm not going to listen to anything you say, even if it's very relevant, useful information. I don't trust you. And
I said that in treatment once.
me too.
When I knew they didn't use and they were
Yeah.
textbook.
Yep.
If you were textbook, as far as
No,
I was concerned,
exactly.
you didn't understand shit I said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you're authentic, if I knew you had, that meant more street credibility. I
Right.
don't know how to explain it to you.
I remember
but
going through, I think it was Hazelden, and And it was like this whole, here's your brain and here's how the stuff affects your brain. It was so scientific. And so that doesn't relate to me. I
Right.
can't relate to that.
Right.
Give me someone who's been there and says, I remember being in my bed with a bottle underneath and one on the night table. And
And you're like,
then I can get it, right?
yeah, that are my people. I can listen to you. I can understand where you're coming from.
And
Yeah.
respect.
In
Yeah.
respect,
And
exactly.
also, you can't bullshit them because they
No,
know they've been
right.
there.
And that's exactly what I needed as well. So I go into jail. I think I'm going to get out same day. They're like, this is a Rob 1 with a gun. Like, you're not going anywhere. You
Gun
know,
crime.
I went.
Boom.
I had the worst withdrawal of my entire life. And I told you, I over and over again, without any Suboxone, without any medication, would withdraw at my parents' house. It was like a regular thing for me. But this fentanyl was something different. And I was so sick. And physically, it was the worst withdrawal I had ever been through in my life. I threw myself down the stairs at Multnomah County Detention Center
Oh my
so that
gosh.
someone would listen to me, because they wouldn't listen to me. I'm like, I've been throwing up blood for 15 hours. Nobody cares. They're like, yeah, whatever. Put you on suicide watch. We'll put you over there. They didn't care. I threw myself down the stairs in jail to
Goodness.
finally.
And those are cement stairs.
They are cement stairs. The insanity. I was not okay. So physically, the worst kick I've ever had in my entire life. But mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I was able to lean into it because there was a presence there with me that said, ever have to do this. This is the last time. You never have to do this again. And so instead of, oh, I don't want to be sick, oh God, I leaned into it and I was like, I am purging all of this shit from my body and I never have to do this again. And I've never done it. I've never had to do
Yes.
it since then. And I've stayed clean. And I got released to treatment. I had that same experience where I needed somebody. I was still, I knew everything. I was hot shit. You couldn't tell me nothing. I wasn't listening to anyone. I think I fired about 3 or 4 court-appointed lawyers, because they wanted me to tell them this or that. And it was like, I'm not talking to you. I don't, trust you or anything like that. And then my parents finally, because I was looking at 10 years, and my parents were like, you're going to let us pay for an attorney for you. And we found this guy and he's in the program and you're here. He's going to come meet with you and you're going to sit down and shut up and listen to him. And I was like, fine. And I met with this lawyer and he was in recovery. And that thing where he saw right through all my bullshit and was like, check it out. He's from New York. He's got a New York accent. He's an Irish guy. I'm Irish. And he was an alcoholic. And he was like, I see right through you, basically. You sit down, you be quiet, you listen to what I have to say, or you're going to prison for 10 years. That's what's going to happen. And only because he had the lived experience, the same lived experience, was I able to be like, okay, I guess I can give this guy a chance. And while I was in jail, I changed. I just decided I never have to do this again. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And it was a little bit like a light switch came on in those moments when I was really sick and the presence was there. And it was like, you never have to do this. But I still had all of these behavioral things I was going to have to work through. And I went to DePaul again. I got released with the ankle monitor. And if I got in trouble or if I left or anything happened, I was going for 10 years. So I had a huge suspended sentence. And that was the accountability I needed to be able to stay and to listen and take suggestions. And it's insane because the program at DePaul, the space was the same, the counselors were the same, the food was the same, the classes were the same. Everything was exactly the same as the last time I had been there when I was like, I'm not like these people. I'm fighting every issue with every single rule and every single counselor. And instead of seeing all of the differences, I was able to see all of the similarities. And I was so grateful to be there after being in jail for 6 months that even though everything was exactly the same, it was just my perspective that needed to be shifted. And it was a night and day different experience for me. And it was incredible. And it was this fresh start. And I was going to soak up every single thing that I could. And I was going to listen to all of these people. And even though I didn't quite trust people yet, I was willing to listen because I never wanted to go back there. I never wanted to feel like that again.
You can't get your nails done in jail, and I don't. I'm just being honest, and I don't really care for the color blue now.
Yeah,
definitely
blues
not
and
orange.
pinks.
Not orange to be transported either. But yeah, that was the worst. I was transported 3 times, and the orange was like, no.
This does not go with my color.
Yeah, and it doesn't for real.
Right.
But I felt the same way. I was willing to do anything. I got high one more time, but I went and told the parole officer.
Yeah.
I was like, put me back in jail. I don't want to be high. And she was like, but you're doing so good. I'll send you through treatment again. And I was like, okay. But the willingness was there. And then honestly, if it wasn't for AA, and I don't drink, I've never been a drinker, but AA, I just went there to get off parole.
Well, because addiction is at the heart, it's very
It's the
similar
same.
across.
I'm a more, as you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
as
addicted to
Roger
more.
says.
We
Yeah.
all use or drink for these underlying issues, and those underlying issues are all similar.
Mhm.
Mine is feeling less than, not feeling good enough, not feeling comfortable in my own skin. And that's still something that I can struggle with today. When I'm feeling very spiritually unfit, I absolutely go into that. And on the way here, I was like, God, what am I going to talk about? And I should get into, I've been in the mess for quite a while now, so I should get into the recovery part of it. But I'm like, what am I going to talk about? Because I'm not feeling super spiritually fit right now. I'm in one of those times in recovery that comes where everything feels difficult. Everything feels hard. I got pregnant very early into recovery, and I'm a single mom, and my son is turning 5 at the end of the month.
Oh.
And he's
And
cute as hell.
He is cute as hell.
Aw.
And it's also very difficult to be a single mother. It is so hard balancing that. And I have this career that really fuels me spiritually and that I've done very well. I've been able to do very well. And it's something that I love and I'm very passionate about. And it also is very difficult to manage both of those things. I'm everything to this little boy. I'm all he has. And I also need to be the provider. And so I need to provide for our family, and being the nurturer and the provider all at the same time, and having no breaks and no time off. I'm going from the minute I wake up to the minute I shut my eyes.
I'm a single parent. And
Right, you get it.
my daughter's father overdosed
Mhm.
on heroin. And it is the hardest job I've ever done. The most rewarding, of course.
Yes.
The hardest job I've ever done. And the financial responsibility, I too climbed up the corporate ladder. I was lucky. I worked 6 to 2:30.
Mhm.
So I was there for softball, basketball. My daughter played tournament ball, fall
Mm.
ball, everything. And so I can relate. And I was really lucky. That kept me really motivated for a long time. And then I was able to, she went to college and stuff like that. And then later on, life got extremely rough. I
Mm.
went through an episode, and you do go through, like, it's life. Shit happens, but it's not easier. I just think we find better ways to deal with it.
Right.
But you do have the hardest job in the whole world, and it's not your career. But being a single mom, I couldn't have two personally, because which one's game do you go to?
Mm.
How do you manage both? I was like one and done,
Mhm.
perfection. Yeah, but it's not an easy job, and it is worth it. So I commend you. It's my biggest blessing, and I never planned on having children,
Yeah.
ever, never.
Yeah.
You are leading into it, but before we get into what you do today and your job part of it, how do you maintain your sobriety, and what do you do in recovery to keep when you're in these moments, when you have those spiritual downs, as we all do, the cycle that goes, that's life.
Yeah.
We got to deal with life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I get back to the basics. And I struggle with self-care. And you get it as a single mom. It's like, when do I have the time in the day to do the things that I need for myself? But you got to make the time. And so I get back to the basics with my meetings, working my steps, being of service. Sometimes it's like my being of service right now is being of service to my child, because I don't have the time for a time commitment
That
at
was enough
a
for
meeting.
me
But
for a
yeah,
while.
exactly. But I have to really take good care of myself. I was just having a conversation earlier today, and I'm like, man, I'm just in a funk, and everything feels hard in so many different categories of my life right now. But like, what can I control? First of all, I can be grateful for what I have, because I am not strung out on dope. I have a beautiful life that I've built. I have a beautiful child. I get to go to work every day. I get to live in this home that I own. What the hell? Who is this? I have this beautiful life. And I get to
Gratitude.
be grateful for it. And
Love
then
it.
I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to move my body, because that is very helpful for me and my mental health. I'm going to meditate, which is one of the most helpful tools that
That's
I
what I
have.
do.
Is I
Lot.
have to get back to meditation, because I have to find a different way
To
to
calm the brain.
calm those voices, all those
Mhm.
voices and all those big feelings and all of that. I have to find a way without substances to do that.
Yeah.
And so meditation is really important for me, and getting into the step work and talking to my sponsor and going to meetings and sharing and being authentic and sharing with you today that I'm not feeling super spiritually fit. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to share about. Hopefully it helps one person, because I'm not in a place where I'm like rainbows and butterflies. I'm in a place
It
where,
helps me, I promise.
right.
I'm going to tell you the stories really impact me. And a lot of the newcomers, I go to meetings a lot.
Mhm.
They always tell me, I really appreciate you saying that everything's not perfect and being authentic.
Right.
And I agree with you. There's times when just raising my child and going to meetings was enough.
Mhm.
And now the podcast feels like service, though I feel I get more of it.
Mm.
But It is. And it's the balance. And
Mhm.
then you can get too busy with work and then you forget the self-care.
Mhm.
And everything you said was spot on.
But even just saying what you're saying, I think we talked about this off the air before we started, but that being true, open, and honest
Mhm.
to others.
Mhm.
And
Letting you see me.
yes, and I think that's fantastic, and that's could make such a huge impact on others. And hopefully, listening to our show, you get that,
Well,
right?
and you know what? I don't know why, but like you said, fentanyl. But I know so many people that their life is ruined, right?
Mhm.
And even though I got some challenges right now, I'm alive.
Yeah.
I have sobriety for a long time. How blessed have I been?
Right.
And honestly, if I just have my sobriety and my recovery, everything else is possible.
Yeah.
It might go in ebbs and flows and
Mm.
whatnot, and it might not be perfect, but everything is possible with it.
Yes.
And I'm not empty.
Mm.
I might have challenges, but I'm not empty.
Yeah, there was a time when I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror without screaming or wanting to cry. I just hated the person I am. Like, I don't hate myself anymore. I've gotten a lot of wonderful things in my recovery that many of the promises have been fulfilled for me. And I'm a homeowner and I'm a kick-ass single mom and I have this amazing career that I've worked so hard at and truly blesses me. And I'm very grateful for all of those things. And the things that I am most grateful for are not related to that at all. It's that I love who I am. I get to be a daughter today. I get to be a sober mother. I can look at myself in the mirror and really love and enjoy the person that I am. I don't feel the need to shut off all of my emotions anymore. I know how to ride the wave. I
Yeah.
know that, like, right now I'm in a hard time and that's okay. And that nothing needs to be done to fix it. I'm
Right.
just having a hard time right now, and that's all right. And it won't last forever.
It
And
won't.
I don't
You're
need
going to
to.
feel good when you walk out of here today.
Yeah.
I promise. No, I promise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us about your career now, and because you've talked about how much you get from that,
Yeah.
and what you do today.
I love what I get to do for a living. Yeah. I get to raise money and raise awareness for people.
I've heard you're good at it.
Good.
We're not good at it yet.
I'm gonna help however I
Yeah,
can.
we just got T-shirts and we paid for them, and Peter's paid for the equipment, but we became a nonprofit in less than 6 months. We
Good for
feel
you.
like we're doing
Well, it's
pretty
the
good for
passion,
where we're
for
at.
me.
Yeah.
It's and you said that too. You said my passion. I'm passionate about what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a lot of jobs where I've been very successful. And that's important to me. You've heard it a lot throughout my whole story is this success,
Same.
achievement driven kind of personality that I have. But I've never had something that I feel so my cup is full from this work. And I get to raise money and raise awareness for people who are just like me, people who struggle with mental health and with substance use disorder. And it's so cathartic. And it's just been an amazing journey. When I was in jail, I wrote this business plan. And at the time, because I didn't go to anything recovery related, I had no idea what peer delivered services were. I thought I was really doing something, which is so funny. I pat that version of me on the head and, oh, that's very cute. Because I'm like, it's young people helping other young people through their lived experience. And it's like this funnel where they come in and they're the one getting services, but then they become the one that's passing down and reaching their hand back for the next. And it's just
Oh,
that constant
yeah.
thing.
I love it.
And I got out at DePaul and I was talking to this woman there and I'm like, yeah, I wrote this business plan. I invented this whole idea. And she's, that's peer delivered services. You didn't invent anything. That's very cute, honey. That's my job. I'm a peer. And
You
I'm
know?
like, oh. And then she said, and that sounds just like 4D because it was focused on young people. And I started my career at 4D. I was there for 5.5 years and I learned so much and gained so much experience. And
Tony's brilliant.
he's amazing. Yeah, he's very smart at what he does. And I was able to build
He has a good
up.
team.
He
I
does.
think
He's got
that
some hitters.
it is,
Mhm.
and we interviewed Tony.
Yeah.
And I didn't know you worked at 4D, just so you know.
Yeah.
But he surrounds himself with movers.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, the people that I've met through 4D, Elton,
Yeah. She's
Robert Sanders.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's so amazing to show up for work every day as your authentic self and be around people who are like-minded. And I had that at 4D and I have that at Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon. Man, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
MHAAO. And the leader there at MHAAO, Janie Gullickson, is incredible. She's just this amazing
love
woman
it.
in recovery and has done so much for the community and built up this organization to this incredible place. We served nearly 7,500 people last year.
Wow.
The impact is huge. There's like
That's
over
incredible.
50 direct service programs in so many different areas. We're
I
in
love
the
it.
prisons, we're in the hospitals, we're doing street outreach, we do training. We train so many different peers to get
I just
PWS.
applied for my PS. Yes.
Yeah.
I went through Tony's class and I got my MAAO, but now I'm doing it so I can have CRM and PSS
Yes.
both. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just so validating to be in an organization where I'm able to be my true self, because that's what I ran away from for so long. I didn't want to let you see me. I didn't want to be who I was. And so now every day it's like my goal is to just show up authentically today. And I get to do that. And I am still loved and wanted and needed. And
I
get to
love
be
that
myself.
How rewarding. How so rewarding.
Yeah.
because I think my success corporate wise, I didn't mix the two. And there wasn't peer support services when I came out. And that fact that there is now, and there's so many good things, because Portland needs it. Let's be honest, it really needs it. And having people like you and whatever, I might be a late bloomer. I've always been a late bloomer. Didn't have
Never
sex
too late
until I
to
was
start.
after 18. I really was. Like when I got involved in the escort service, I thought I was going out to the fucking ballet.
Yeah.
Like I was taking someone to dinner. But yeah, the
I'm
fact
just
that
escorting them.
yeah, that's what
Naive Julie.
that's what I
Right.
really thought. And I sadly mistaken, but the money was good and it helped with the drugs. But the fact that you can do that now, and I'm trying to get to that so much older to where you can blend the both. But I think it's great that you can do that. What a give back.
And it's so cathartic for me as well, because all of these things in my life that I've either done or have been done to me, or I've experienced, that all of those really dark, shameful moments, those are always the moments that like I'm able to connect with someone else, whether it's at a meeting or otherwise. And those being able to use those things that were so difficult to navigate to help someone else, to connect with someone else, to give somebody else hope that they can get out of the situation that they're in, and how beautiful it is on this other side. It's so cathartic for me. And yeah, I think helpful to other people. I share really openly and honestly about myself and my journey and all of that. And
You would have been wasted in prison for
Yeah.
10 years.
yeah.
I'm just letting you know.
But you know what the crazy thing was? I was in such a spiritually fit place, and my lawyer thought, "You're a fucking idiot, shut up." But I was like, if I'm meant to go to prison, because I was so okay with wherever I was going to be led, because I came to an understanding while I was in jail that my life is now going to unfold just as it ought to. And if I am meant to go to prison, I am meant to do something there.
Right.
And I was okay with it. It was like,
We did not have the same attitude,
Yeah.
girl. I had $286,000 taken from me, and
Yeah,
I
I would've
pissed
been
the fuck
pissed.
off.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I was gonna get as much time as I did, but I was blessed. I went to boot camp and got a time cut.
yeah.
But yeah, and I couldn't have a public attorney either because there was 36 conflicts of interest. They didn't have
Wow.
enough lawyers to represent me. So yeah, but I didn't go in with that attitude. That's my attitude now, but it took a long time to get there.
Yeah.
It was enough just for me to be sober at first.
Right.
Yeah, it really was. I'm glad you were able to switch it around so quick.
I don't know what happened. It was like something hit me upside the head, and it was just like, it was just this shift that just took place, because maybe it was part of, even though growing up, going to Catholic school was difficult, I've been a deeply spiritual person my entire life.
I actually
And-
liked Catholic school, believe it or not. Nothing bad happened to me in Catholic school. And I like to speak on the microphone and, Lord, hear our prayer.
Yeah.
Mrs. Jenkins is having surgery. I
Yeah.
loved it. So
What it did instill in me was this deep spirituality. And so I was
Same.
able to tap, after I wasn't cutting myself off from myself and the rest of the world through drugs and alcohol anymore, I was able to tap back into that. And it was like, okay, and I still feel that today, even when things are difficult, even when my child also lost his father,
a shitty coincidence.
even when things show up in my life that are so difficult to navigate, I tell myself, I don't know. I know there's a greater plan at play here. I don't know what it is. I don't get to know. I cannot like it. I can hate it. I can scream kicking the whole way. But because I have that faith that everything is happening for a reason, and I just need the strength and the courage to get through whatever it is.
Courage is a thing. it took me a minute to get over my resentment with God, like a few years in the program. I say this often, but my first higher power was my parole officer. I felt like she controlled my life. Then it was the group. I came to trust these gay men that fucking were everything to me. And then somewhere around the ninth, I don't know when exactly, but I was able to see that God was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself, and that I didn't leave AA when I got off parole. I stayed. And I had a career, which a lot of people that go to prison, it doesn't happen as easily.
Yeah.
And I was able to take care of my child by myself. Those are things. And I worked long, hard hours afterwards, but while she was in school, I worked 6 to 2:30. I would have flipped fucking burgers to work and to see her. I never missed a softball game,
Yeah.
a basketball game as a single parent. And that's what a fucking gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. My ruts have come later on. It's crazy, but hang in there, because I'm going to tell you the good thing is when you said, and I appreciate that because this is what I do. When things get tough for me and I've lost my mother, like I've had a lot of shit go down, my daughter's father, I go to meetings. I double up on meetings. I fucking take another service position. I have never been good about, I sponsor right now, but sponsoring wasn't always my thing because of my job. But if someone's sick, I can cook, obviously, and I take them a meal, but I stay. If you stay out of yourself and focused on others, it helps so much when you're struggling. And that's every time. I just double up on meetings, and meetings stop my brain from overthinking, overworking, feeling sorry for myself. There's always somebody more fucked up than me in a meeting, and I'm being honest because I have sobriety and they may not. But meetings, for me, I can only speak for me, are fucking everything.
Yeah. What's next?
No, what are your what do you see as, do you have goals, or how do you see your life progressing?
Yeah, I'd like to continue to be the best mom that I can. I think that part of that will be finding a way to have better work-life balance. It is hard. And so finding a way to really take good care of myself, that's been my struggle, and that will continue to be my struggle. It's easy for me to take care of other people. It's easy for me to excel at work. It's easy for me to do all of those things. Sitting with myself, taking the time I need for myself, that's always the difficult thing for me. And so finding a way to live this extraordinary, beautiful life and really enjoy it. I just want to be happy. I don't have a ton of huge goals. I have aspirations. I want to continue to learn and grow. I left 4D so that I could get into a place where I was going to learn more and get uncomfortable, right? I needed to get
Absolutely.
uncomfortable so I could grow, and I'm doing that. And so I will continue to do that, and I want to expand my understanding. I want to expand what I'm able to, the impact I'm able to have. And that's career-wise. And personally, I just want to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to take good care of my son. I want to take more little trips with him, and I want to be in the moment. I'm a worrier and an overthinker, and I have this brain thing that's going nonstop.
Me too.
And so I just want to find a way to let that fade away, and I want to live in the moment and enjoy this beautiful life that I've built.
You like to meditate, and one of the things that I have in I also meditate a lot, is the mountain. And the mountain is ever present, right? And it can take the winters and it can take the summers, but it's always there.
Yes.
It doesn't worry about what's coming. It doesn't worry
Yes.
about what happened. And that, for me, and I, of course, see Mount Hood right there in my mind when I meditate about it.
Yes.
But it's the same thing, being present in the moment
Yes.
and trying to quell those voices, because I have the same track that goes and always worry.
Staying in one day, today at a time, is probably the hardest thing, but the most rewarding. I told you I'm going through some stuff, and yesterday I was able to stay in the day, and that for me. And then the meeting topic was, what shit are you going through last night? And I was like, okay. And I was able to stay in the moment. And this morning was a little rough answering the questionnaire for my work and the doctors, but come here. This is a gift. And then I'm able to bring it back and stay in this moment, which is, you're going to be great no matter what. I feel it.
Here's a perfect template for what you can do. Steps. But if someone's struggling and they're listening to this, where can they go? How can they initiate the process within your organization?
Yeah, if they go to MHAAO.org, they can refer themselves if they're needing support on both sides, addiction as well as mental health. So we do peer delivered services for both sides of it. And we can help people, just like we were talking about, navigate the resources. That's what we do really well. Navigate housing. If they need to go to treatment, whatever that is, we'll meet that person where they're at. We'll say, me too, I understand you. Now, what's the plan? Let's help you accomplish that.
Very cool. And we'll have that link on our site. So if you're listening, go to our site or visit the site mentioned.
MHAO.org.
.org. And it'll be easier just to find the link in the notes,
Yes, we'll put
in
it
my
in
show
there.
notes.
Yeah,
It's a fabulous organization.
it is.
They're growing. They're
It
doing
is.
some good stuff.
Absolutely.
It is. And honestly, we need a village. True Colors, 4D, Painted Horse Recovery. We need a village because honestly, the police can't do it. And it's just saving a life is just so much more important than so much other bullshit.
It's incredible. I was able to go out on a project the other day that is just got funded for a year through the city, county, and state that is working with the police, and it is absolutely incredible. So the bike cops downtown are encountering people that are openly using drugs out there, and at this point, it's like giving them a citation, and it had been for a long time. You're just telling them to call the number on the back, and probably they don't have the wherewithal to really do that.
Right.
And so now, in working with the Portland Police Bureau, MHAAO is like on call. And so the cops are encountering people. They're calling MHAAO. Within 10 minutes, we're arriving with a peer and helping people get same day services, whether it's into detox, into treatment, into housing.
Wow,
That's
that's
fucking awesome.
incredible.
It was incredible. And I left just, again,
Because you have to
spiritually
catch them
fed.
in that moment that they want it.
Right.
Because it might not be that case.
Fleeting moment
Yes.
of clarity.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yeah. It's really incredible. And yes, I agree. The more service providers that we have from different cultures, different viewpoints, right? Because all of our stories are different. What you needed is a little different from what I needed. We're all a little bit different. And so as much as we can have as far as service providers and then working with one another.
Yeah. And that's what we've been trying to put out, right? That if you're part of the LGBT community, go to True Colors. And it was when Chris G was describing the mentors, right? That I wanted to go to class just to learn about it.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't one. I think that there's hope, and there hasn't been hope before as much, but I think we're starting to get to a lot of hope.
Yeah, I think that there's like this old tired narrative that people don't want help, that there's nothing for people. And it's, yes, we need to vastly expand detox and treatment services, but there is help. And furthermore, the people, they want help. Portland's most vulnerable population, downtown, houseless population, they want the help, and we're able to help them that same day.
Awesome.
And so just flipping that narrative,
Same day.
It's amazing. 144 people.
I didn't know that. So I just want you to
send
know,
you
and
some
I
more
always think
information
I
about
know
it.
everything. Just kidding. But I didn't know that. And yesterday we learned that this one treatment center, right? They won't turn you away because of your insurance. They won't turn you away. You don't got insurance. And that
even if it's something that
they don't take.
You show up for something that they're not
they'll
geared
scholarship
for.
you
They'll figure
in.
out
What
where
treatment
to go.
Another chance.
Another chance. Yeah,
Yeah.
They're incredible.
Yeah. And so we were talking to John, and you today, him yesterday, like.
One of the things that I've observed from meeting with so many different people, and we'll wrap it up here, there's a lot of really good work going on, and there has been, but it's been siloed to a certain extent. And so by bringing the different places together and finding out who can help where, so de-assembling the silos, making it more of a network.
We keep putting them on our website.
Yeah.
Every person we interview, whether it's Amanda at True Colors, whoever we interview, we've been putting on our website. If somebody's in their car listening, and we're trying to give them different points of view. Not recovery's all one way.
It's not all one way. And yeah, to your point, I love the coming together. That was the part that, along with it, these people were like, yes, I want to go to detox. Yes, I want same day services. I'm ready right now. It was the partnership. It was like, another chance is there. Iron Tribe. It's like all of these providers, they have this meeting in the morning and they know how many detox beds are available at Hooper, how many are available over at Recovery Works. It's all of these providers in the room saying, this is what we have available for today. Now let's go find the people that are ready to fill those beds and get the services that they need. And it's that kind of true partnership and collaboration that we really need to make the lasting impact. And it's just incredible to see.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Any final words or parting words?
No, just want to thank you guys so much for what you're doing and having me here today. It's really
We
incredible.
appreciate you coming, like I said, to my humble abode.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We don't have a studio or anything, but I think it works
I not
well.
only
and
appreciate you,
yeah, it's been fantastic.
thank you for the message. Thanks for telling us that. And I had a really crappy morning, for real. And I'm good. I'm good for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's what this does for me too. And I get it like in 3 or 4-fold because I get that person right now and then I edit it, then I re-listen to it and maybe edit it again. So yeah, it's so fulfilling and so rewarding. Thank you so much.
For me as well. Thank you.
This is Peter, Real Recovery Podcast with
This is Julie. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks to each and every one of you for lending us your ears and hearts. Your engagement is what fuels our passion and keeps this podcast thriving.
We cherish the moments we share here and hope they resonate with you, whether you're on a daily commute, at the gym, or just taking a moment for yourself.
Make sure to head over to our website at realrecoverypodcast.com. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter for the latest insights and uplifting stories from our community delivered straight to your inbox.
Click that subscribe button on your favorite podcast player too, so you can keep up with every new episode. It's your support that keeps our conversation alive and meaningful.
And if our stories have touched you, consider using the donate button on our site. Your contributions, no matter the size, are deeply appreciated. They help us continue our mission of sharing hope and healing.
Join us beyond the podcast and follow our journey on social media. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and on X, formerly known as Twitter. All the links are on our site, so you can stay connected and be a part of the Real Recovery community every day.
Your likes, shares, and comments not only spread the message of recovery, but also remind us that we're all in this together.
So, until we meet again, remember that recovery is a journey, not a destination, and we'll be here to accompany you every step of the way to recovery, real recovery.
Thanks for listening.